Alright guys, Jay Product Performance here. So this is something that's not really talked about much, unless you're a real Ford geek. And, transmissions are really not that interesting to people, especially compared to engines and things. So, when we talk about the 428 and 429 Cobra jet engines and Boss engines and all these kind of things, that's a lot more exciting than the transmission. But if you're really into this stuff, the transmission stuff's interesting too. So this is, I've been doing these for I don't know, 25 or 30 years or something. I guess more like 30 years, but I would say I have probably worked on a real Cobra jet transmission. I've probably seen less than 10 of them come in here in all this time. We've had people mimic them, where they'll get the tail shaft and the R servo for them or something and kind of build something that's close to it. But this here is the real deal, and I've got two of them in here right now. This is a 429 Cobra jet. I would say there's a museum out here. A guy owns a museum. He's got 71 to 73 Mustangs is his gig, and he primarily likes 4-speed cars, but he's starting to dabble in the automatic stuff, I guess, if the car is special. So this is one for the museum. I think it's either 71 or 72, I believe. So I don't know exactly what this is out of. The guy's got a lot of cars, but anyways, a lot of awesome stuff. Awesome museum. If you're ever out in the Mineral Wells, Texas area, certainly something worth checking out. But so I have the privilege here of going through a couple C6s for them and all that sort of thing. So anyways, what's special about these transmissions is probably what some of you guys want to know, maybe don't know already. These, as old as they are, you never know if they've been altered or, This one here, I would say, has been rebuilt before, I believe. But it looks like they didn't molest it too much. I believe this would have had the original cast iron rigid band in it. This did not. It had a flex band in it. I think that it was replaced, but, I could be wrong about that. Maybe by the time 71, 72 rolled around, maybe they no longer used the rigid band. I'm not sure, to be honest with you, but I know the earlier 68 Cobra Jet, 428 Cobra Jet stuff had that original cast iron band, which I like a lot. Those, flex band versus rigid band is kind of controversial, I guess, but in any case, so what's special about this transmission? Well, there's not a lot to show you, but this is cast iron instead of cast aluminum. Very heavy piece, and way overkill. I mean, the cast aluminum ones are never an issue. And of course, this case has got the ribs on it. They all did. I think 1974 and older were all ribbed like this. Nothing really different there. So it's got the ribs on it. So here's the R code servo, and you can see that R cast on there. And you can also see the outside shape of this is a little bit different than a normal servo. The R servo and the H servo had this more squared off outside here than all the other factory servos did. So, and the H code was what they used on the police interceptor stuff. Good servo, a little bit smaller than this one. So what was unique about the R servo is not only it had a big apply side, but it also had a very large release side where this release side actually just rides inside the main bore of the case, where other servos where this is stepped down and there's a sleeve on the housing. There would be, you know, this housing here. You can see how short this one is. The normal ones are like this long, and then the release side would ride inside the cover, not in the case. So that was a unique thing about the R servo. And I want you to notice here, there's no O-ring out here. I know I've talked about this before. With the aftermarket ones, they like to put an O-ring here, and I don't put the O-ring back because you have a oil hole here that bypasses the O-ring anyways. So I never really understood why they put the O-ring there, and Ford didn't do it on the factory one. So if you don't believe me or didn't believe me, if you saw that other video on aftermarket servos, and you can go back and watch that if you're interested in it, but there's no O-ring here. That's factory Ford stuff, you know. So the servo lever is a B typically. I'm not sure about this, but possibly in 68 they used the F lever for a short time, but I'm honestly not sure about that. I was told that years ago, but any of these that I've had have had the B. I don't think I've ever actually seen one with the F, so that might be just a wives' tale there or something, I don't know. But who knows, you know, and maybe it had both. But you don't really, I typically don't run an F lever with the R servo, it's just too much. And this is the tag from it. So if you guys want to, if you can see that, and you want to look that up, that PJC, that'll kind of, if you have a Ford manual, you know, from back in, you know, well, this one, like I said, is like a 71 or 72. It actually decodes these to some extent. It tells you how many frictions are in it and things like that. So how many frictions does this have? So the low reverse inside the case, it had 5. A lot of these I've seen have 6, but this one just had 5. So your forward here, the snap ring groove is pretty close to the top. This held 5. And then this here is a sought after piece. This is a factory 5 clutch drum. And it's got the single groove. A lot of the guys used to be looking for these because they wanted to put those power packs in it. And you can put 8 frictions in this. These are very, very hard to find. And you can identify it. See these two grooves on the lugs? That's how you identify a factory 5 clutch single groove. There is a drum that has just a single groove here. That's a factory 4 clutch. And then most of them don't have the grooves. So that's how you can identify them. So like if you, for example, take the unit apart and you pull the valve body and grab this, so you can see your sun shell and that lug would go inside this slot. You can look at the lug and say, oh yeah, geez, this unit has a, you know, whatever. It's got the 2 grooves, a 5 clutch, or whatever. Maybe it's got 1 groove and no grooves. So that's how you identify what your drum is without taking the unit apart. So again, you know, the 2 groove here, this is a very sought after piece. And no, I'm not selling it. I don't steal from customers. So this is going right back in. I've had a lot of guys really wanting these over the years. And, you know, if you send something in like this, I don't steal your drums. I don't, you know, I've had, you know, it's a weird thing for me to say, but I've had a lot of people reluctant to send some of these things in because they're afraid they're not going to get their stuff back. Because so many shops would either just I'm not saying they were necessarily trying to be dishonest, but they would just swap the unit for one that's already rebuilt on the shelf, and maybe you'll get your R servo back because you can see that, but all the internals and stuff would just be generic, and they just wouldn't, of course, you do get guys that are thieves, and you give them a Cobra Jet transmission and you don't get a Cobra Jet transmission back. Well, these guys with the museum, I'm sure, would be over here repeatedly punching me in the face if I tried to take any of this stuff, but which I would never do anyways. But this is a cool piece of history here, and it's very cool. I really enjoy the museum they've got, and I want to see this car back in there with all its original stuff. This is the shift lever. These are hard to get and desirable if you have one of these cars. This plastic piece here, I've never seen this before. I've got 2 units in here because, like I said, they gave me 2 of these to work on. I've got 2 of these in that have this, and I got to be honest, I don't know what this plastic piece is for. If any of you guys happen to know what that is, please put that in the comments. I've never seen that. Kind of interesting. So these also had the 4-pinion rear planet. And I've cut a groove in here to put a bearing, so they don't normally have that pocket. I'm still working on everything here. I'm just laying this out, and I still got to do the final cleanup on everything and all that, and then I can start assembling. But I'm going to do some modifications to this stuff as well, just to make it a little bit more, a little bit stronger and operating better and things like that. But so anyways, I just thought I'd share this with you for you guys that might have never seen one of these transmissions, or maybe didn't even realize that they were any different than any other car. C6 to C6. Well, these are, it's not a lot different, but there's enough different. Now, I don't believe the governor or the valve body are special, but maybe in another video. This is the governor. I haven't taken this apart yet. I haven't taken the valve body apart yet either. I've seen this stuff before, but I don't believe they're any different, at least anything major. I'm sure there's some difference, but I honestly couldn't tell you what. But maybe I'll do another video. It might be boring as hell because we may not really find anything significant, but I'm going to do another video on the valve body and the governor and kind of compare and see if I can notice anything different about them. So we'll do that. And, I remember years ago somebody on eBay had an NOS valve body, still in the box and everything, never opened. It was supposed to be from a Cobra Jet. And I bought it. And the bad thing was it got lost in shipping. I never saw it. I was all excited to get this in because I figured, okay, this is an unmolested Cobra Jet valve body. I'll have the answer. I'll know for sure what they did or didn't do to it. I can analyze it and all that sort of thing. And it never made it. Lost in freight. So that was very disappointing. There was I won't give a lot of details here, but just a quick story for you. Years ago, we did a C6 for it was a very famous race car back in the day, and it had a special C6 in it. This is from the 60s. Not too many guys were running automatics back then. And it had a manual valve body that I don't know where it was really from. And so it was a very special transmission, very special car. And the owner of the car asked me, he was having an event, having people come out, and he was going to talk about the car, talk about the engine and all this stuff. And and he asked me to come out and talk about the transmission. So I says, all right, sounds like fun. So he throws me up there in front of everybody, and I start talking about the transmission and what I found, and I would say maybe 30 seconds in, maybe a full minute, I don't know, this dude just cuts me off and just kind of really humiliates me. And I thought, I understand I'm boring and everything, and maybe transmission isn't as exciting as the engine is, but man, why'd you even ask me out here if you're just going to humiliate me like that? But it just made me realize that engines are exciting, transmissions are just not. But they're a very important piece, and it shouldn't be overlooked. And it's something, I don't know. I mean, if you're interested in this stuff, I don't know. I don't know why people don't talk about it. But I get it, They don't make 1,000 horsepower, and they don't make noise, and they don't look as pretty. I get it. It's not as exciting, but a very important piece of the puzzle nonetheless, and not an area that you should ever skimp on. You go spend $10,000, $20,000 or more on a really nice motor. Man, don't cheap out on the transmission. It makes such a difference when you have a transmission that works right and lasts and all that sort of thing. So, okay, I guess that's it. Probably a pretty boring video for most of you guys, but if you've never seen a Cobra Jet transmission, this is it. It's pretty cool. It's a piece of history. I enjoy it. So, alright guys, I will maybe do that valve body video, and if you thought this one was boring, wait till you see the valve body video. I'm probably just going to tell you I can't find any difference in it, but we'll give it a shot. Alright guys, thanks for watching and supporting the channel.